Hey, this is 7 Grains of Salt. It's the 9th of May 2019. We're going to look into the moment of silence back into the schools. Let's look at the history of who came up with this and my interpretation of why they're trying to enforce it. So it was founded by Rabbi Avraham Frank, and who was inspired by Schneerson. If you don't know that name, I'm going to show you who he is if you're not aware. It was like the moment of silence inspired by Rabbi Schneerson, called the action to respond to the state of American youth. You can find all that information in momentofsilence.info. So Rabbi Schneerson, let's look at what he stressed together. So online you can find this. Okay, sorry, a little slow. In asknoah.org. Schneerson stressed that with this training, students will come to appreciate the need carefully to chew over every mundane activity. Well, they implemented this into the schools many years ago, and it was to improve morals, ethics, values in students' lives. Well, they did say it had an effect, and that was great. But as you can read right here, this need not be seen as promoting a prayer, because there's a separation of church and state. That's right. And so I'm a little nervous if a church or the school is implementing certain religious things, because then you have to really be careful of and watch over what they're doing and what they're teaching, because sometimes they will veer off of the truth and the Word of God. And that has happened with our children's school, but I'm not going to get into that. So the history, moment of silence, there, Schneerson, also follows under Education and Sharing Day. Doesn't that sound like Noahide law? Under education law in America. It was in '78. Even Reagan expressed his great morals and ethical values and the intellectual and spiritual development of our nation that Schneerson had. Very nice words. If you don't know who Schneerson is, before I go into that one, let's look. This is Schneerson, right here. So who was he? He was born in Russia, by the way. Schneerson proved to be a gifted Talmudic and Kabbalistic study, and also took exams in the Soviet schools. He was considered a genius. He was only 17 and had mastered the entire Talmud. So that right there should give a little bit of heads up on exactly who he is. He's an Orthodox Jewish man. So what did they say in here as well? In the Shabbat.org, this was an interesting fact that I found. This was also under a moment of silence to start the school day. So they stated that pause in a conversation is just as important as the words that follow. It may be even more essential. Look at the white spaces between the letters in this page. Aren't they as important as the letters themselves? No. The pause in music, blah, blah, blah. But look where it comes from. The Talmud tells us that if a word is worth a currency of time, so selah, silence is worth 2. So that's why they're wanting this implemented in the schools. That's my, of course, view on it. We'll get into the goy in a second. Okay, so also the rabbi just the other day asked the president to bring back the moment of silence into the daily school schedules. This is my opinion. I'm not promoting. I think it was a horrible act. I'm against all violence and terrorism. But this is a step towards the Noahide law being implemented, where we will have to make the decision whether we will be re-educated or we're going to die. But you can look into one of my other videos on that, or I'll give you other sites where you can find that information. So let's look together. This is the article where I got the picture from, and I read about it. You can read it too. And this also caught my eye. Dr. Ronnie Floyd, our nation needs prayer today more than ever before. I totally agree. praying to God, Jesus, to bring a change into this world. But he states, he recalls the words of Rabbi Schneerson. Wow. The way we react to darkness is with light. So why is this man, whoever he is, talking about Schneerson in a positive way when he's an Orthodox Jewish Talmudic believer? So I looked him up. He's a president of the National Day of Prayer, and he is a pastor. So it really gets me to wonder, and it should get others to wonder too. Have they been paid off? Are their hands being twisted, and the ways that they're being pushed into wars, are they blind and they're just really unaware? Or are they in on this the whole way? And I don't know what to say, but we need to pray. Pray for the leaders of our nations, and pray. Because who's running our country? Who? Who is running America? Right here, this was the picture. And although the New York Times apologized for this, this is exactly true. Everything that has been asked by Netanyahu of Trump has done. He's done everything. And as much as I agree that America has been there, the backbone of Israel, and I myself have loved Israel. I have Jewish family, distant and near, who are partial Jewish, have Jewish background. Love every bit of them. But if they're Orthodox Jews who are believing in the Talmud, why are we allowing them to run the country and our countries around the world, and are allowed to implement these laws into our countries? As No More News had, this is the Zionist states of America. Trump makes Israel great again, more than America great again. It's very concerning. It is honestly very concerning, because then let's look into the Orthodox Jewish people. Who are they, and what do they think? They believe that they are above all, and they believe that every other country is hateful, and that we are an animal in human form. Everybody but them is goy, so we are equal to a dog, and we are accountable to whatever happens. But if they do something, they're not accountable at all, not responsible. They want to kill every goyim, so all of us, and especially the Christians, and they will lie, cheat, and steal to do this. Doesn't that sound familiar? Kind of sounds like the Muslims, right? To communicate anything to the goyim. Let's look at that together. We're here in the Sanhedrin. This is one place you can find it. Right here, rents.com, Jewish Talmudic quotes. Really horrific. But if we only knew what they were discussing in their Talmudic and Sanhedrin laws, we would want to kill them. And did you know that Catholic Church, a couple hundred years ago, back in the 1600s, I believe it was, they burnt hundreds, if not thousands, of Talmudic books because a Christian pastor brought him into the court system to prove how they thought that they were above everyone and that they wanted to rule the world. And they ended up burning all these. And that's what I think that we should do too. Bring this into the eyes of others to get them to understand what is really going on. But then you see an article, evangelicals flock to learning centers in Israel. Although I think it's fabulous to learn from the Jewish point of view of the Old Testament. But they're going to the Orthodox rabbis. Again, they're the wrong people to be learning from. They have their own version of the Torah, and it is not the version that we as Christians stand by and live by. This is dangerous. And do these Christians really understand who the Orthodox Jewish people are? So if you don't, please research and look into it, because they believe in the Talmud, the Kabbalah, Rambam, the Maimonides, I said that wrong, mysticism. They are Zionist false teachers, and they're preparing for the 7 Noahide laws that are going to be implemented. They're already in law in America and also in the UN. They just have to be implemented into every country. Apparently, Russia has them, China has them, some other Asian country, and also I heard Sweden. I haven't looked into it yet, but I heard that they have it. But we need to pray over them. If you have Jewish relatives, pray and just be loving towards them. But there is a difference between the different kind of Jews, just like there's different kind of Christians and different kind of people all around the world. But Orthodox, Talmudic, Kabbalah believers are not the people that we need to be taking advice from and studying with them. But God has asked us to pray and to love, especially love. When you look around the Bible, I only took a few things here. That was the greatest. The greatest of these is love. Love your neighbor. Because you've heard of the law that says, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. And that's what they say in the Talmud. But I say, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And in that way, you will be acting as true children of our Father in heaven. Everywhere it says, love your enemies. Do good to those who even hate you. And that's what we need to do. Pray for our leaders. Pray for those. Pray for the chains to be broken over these people. He asks us to pray because our prayer has great power and produces wonderful results. And always be joyful. Never stop praying. Be thankful in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you who belong in Christ Jesus. That's right. Well, before I get into that, I missed one article where I was wondering why, what is going on when our Florida cabinet is meeting in Jerusalem. You really have to wonder what is going on. Please, we need to pray for America. We need to pray for Europe and pray for the nations. I think I've gone over every other one here now. I apologize for not going over that one. That was for the anti-Semitism law. I'm not going to get into that right now, but I wanted to point that out. That something's wrong when your government is meeting in a different country, and just should bring up a lot of red flags. So we're living in difficult times, and I urge you to study. Don't just trust me. Study, research. You can find all these sites for the Noahide laws and learn God's promises for us. For He loves us and wants us all to be saved. Because one day they're going to take all this information off the net and we're not going to be able to find it all. But pray, above all else, pray. Pray about that He gives you wisdom to find the truth in all of this. And pray that He gives you wisdom to know who to listen to, because there's so many Christians who are false teachers right now as well. But if you don't know Christ and Jesus right now, I ask that you accept Him into your heart, because times are going to get crazy. If you don't know how to pray, I brought this prayer here that you can read. You can find it in the Bible, and you can find it online. Because that's what we need to do. Prayer is very powerful. And Israel News is one site that you can go into. They suggested these 3 books especially. She was studying this Kabbalah and meditation only because she was looking into the Noahide laws. So I just brought it up there because those were all the books that they had mentioned. So No More News, Israel News Live, True News, Paul Begley. There's so many who discuss daily news from around the world. So I suggest those, but you'll find the one that is perfect for you if those are not the ones. A Minute to Midnight is a radio program as well, and Truth Stream Media discusses vaccines and many other things. So many great YouTubers out there that will probably eventually be taken down. So I suggest that instead of trusting in man, that you trust in God and read the Word and get the truth from there, and don't worry about all these things that are coming. But be aware and try and stand up for the truth and for God, because it feels like we're getting the rug pulled from under our feet. All right. Well, that's it for today. I thank you and stay vigilant. And until next time, God bless.